Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We love when you send us source material, and today's topic comes straight from you.
Yeah, some really fascinating stuff.
It is. We've got excerpts from the essay Self-Defense Handbook, a complete guide to unarmed combat techniques by John Lofty Wiseman. Just the ass part of that
Oh, yeah.
makes me think intense. But this book,
Right.
it's not about becoming some kind of elite operative. It's
Yeah,
it's really about practical self-defense for everyday situations.
absolutely. And what's so cool about this handbook, even just in these excerpts, is how comprehensive it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about, throwing punches and kicks. It lays out this
Right.
really solid foundation
Yeah.
and things you might not think about right away when it comes to, physical altercation. Stuff like your mental game
Oh, yeah.
and how to avoid trouble altogether.
Exactly. And it's really cool how the book is structured too. Even in these snippets, you can see
Yeah.
like a clear path. It starts with like, okay, what kind of mental attitude do you need? And then it moves into like, okay, how do you spot trouble? How do you stay away from
Right.
risky situations? And then finally it gets into like, okay, if you absolutely have to, what are the techniques? What are the target areas?
Yep.
So our mission today is to unpack those first couple of crucial parts, the mindset, the awareness,
Right.
and pull out the key principles that you can actually use right now to be safer.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into it. The book starts with a really fundamental question.
Mm.
What is self-defense?
And I love how right away it goes way beyond like the fighting part. It says,
Yeah.
straight up like 90% of successful self-defense that's avoiding violence altogether.
Wow.
That number right there makes you rethink like what it really means to be prepared.
It totally changes your perspective. I feel like we're kind of trained to think
Yeah,
about the big dramatic confrontation, but the real win is never even getting there.
totally.
Right. And the book stresses like mental preparation is just as crucial as being physically ready, understanding your limits, knowing what's actually dangerous around you.
Right.
It's not about being afraid. It's about being realistic
Exactly.
and smart about your surroundings.
And building on that, the book talks about discipline early on.
Mm,
But discipline, not just like mastering moves and stuff.
right.
It's about having control of yourself,
Yeah.
your actions, your emotions when things get tense. Having the mental strength to assess the situation.
Stay calm.
Think I'll make the best decision. And that might mean de-escalating or just getting out of there.
Like training a mental muscle almost.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Like you work it out just like anything else. And I really liked that the book says, hey, self-defense for all, that's achievable. Like it's not just for big, strong people or people who've trained in martial arts.
Right.
Anyone, regardless of, who they are, how strong they are, can use these principles.
It's empowering, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So moving into chapter 2, the book really emphasizes how important the right mental attitude is.
Oh, yeah. It hammers that home.
Yeah.
That chapter on positive thinking, it's like the bedrock.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
gets into self-belief. Believing you can actually stop an attack.
Right.
Training your mind to handle fear, because
Mm.
that's natural.
Yeah.
When you feel threatened, you get scared.
Of course.
But you can build up that mental toughness ahead of time.
And then there's this idea of the will to win, which when I
Mhm.
first read it, I thought that's kind of aggressive, right?
Right.
But it's not about like wanting to dominate or anything like that.
It's deeper than
Yeah. It's like this deep down determination that comes from wanting to protect what you value,
yourself.
the people you love.
It's that primal instinct,
Yeah.
I will not be a victim.
Yeah. It's powerful.
And the book talks about this thing called self-defense psychology,
Okay.
which really reinforces that idea. It's about consciously building up your willpower when there's a threat, focusing on what you need to do, pushing away those doubts that can creep in. The mental game is huge.
It's all about projecting strength, right? Like you're not going to be messed with.
Right.
And that leads to something else the book mentions, body language.
Oh, yeah, how you carry yourself.
Yeah. The book says we say way more with our bodies than with our words.
It's true,
Just walking with confidence, that can be a deterrent in itself.
for sure. That goes back to that 90% statistic.
Yeah.
Sometimes just looking like you're not an easy target.
Yeah.
That's self-defense.
Okay, so we've laid down this mental foundation. Section 2 gets into spotting trouble, which is all about awareness and prevention. Chapter 3 digs into avoiding confrontations, which,
Yeah.
based on everything we've talked about so far, that seems like the best outcome.
The ultimate goal.
Yeah. Stay out of it completely.
And the book makes it clear that's the priority.
Okay.
Avoiding trouble in the first place. It talks about retaining control in tense situations,
Okay.
not by getting aggressive,
Mm.
but by staying calm, using your head to stop things from escalating.
Not letting yourself get pulled into a fight.
Exactly, even if someone's trying to bait you. And there's this really interesting part about distraction techniques,
Oh, yeah, I was curious about that.
like doing something unexpected to throw the aggressor off.
Yeah, the book gives examples like faking being sick
Right.
or shifting their attention to somebody else entirely.
Yeah, like what it sounds
Yeah,
weird, but
yeah.
in a tense moment, that surprise could buy you time or a chance to escape.
Like catching them off guard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. You break their focus, and maybe you de-escalate things without a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And the examples show how being unpredictable can be a tactical advantage.
It's like playing mental chess.
Right.
The book also mentions some ways to calm down a confrontation.
Oh, yeah, some simple stuff.
Yeah, like asking people to sit down or just physically separating them. Seems basic.
Yeah,
But when everyone's heated, those simple things can actually work.
for sure. And then there's diversion tactics, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like being sympathetic or agreeing with the person who's angry
Okay.
to shift their attention away from attacking you.
Yeah.
It's about using empathy to de-escalate. Try to connect with them on some level so they calm down.
Okay, so another big thing is maintaining distance,
Yeah.
which seems pretty obvious, but the book really stresses how important it is.
Oh, yeah, that space is crucial.
Yeah, like having at least 2 arms lengths between you and someone who might be a threat.
It gives you time to react.
Yeah.
You know, they can't just lunge at you.
Yeah.
It also lets you see what they're doing so you can anticipate what might happen.
And you can even, like, take a step back while keeping your hands up ready to block.
Right. A non-confrontational way to get more space but still be prepared to defend yourself.
And there's a little bit about escorting strategies.
Hmm.
Like, if you're with someone else you're responsible for, you have to think about their safety, too.
Position yourself so you're both protected.
Exactly. Then we get into being streetwise, which the book basically defines as knowing your environment.
Knowing where the dangers are.
Yeah, being aware of your
Mhm.
surroundings, like recognizing danger areas, those places that are poorly lit or isolated, especially at night.
Like parking garages.
Yeah, or areas around bars late at night.
Right. Places where things are more likely to happen.
Yeah, and the book says if you can avoid those areas, do it.
Yeah.
But if you can't, at least be extra careful.
Right. Be on high alert.
And the book talks about deterrence, things you can carry that might make someone think twice about attacking you.
Like a walking stick.
Yeah, for visibility.
Right. Or balance or a flashlight.
A bright one.
Yeah, to light things up and maybe startle someone or a personal alarm to get attention if something's happening.
And it also warns about carrying stuff that could be used against you.
Yeah, like a scarf.
Right.
If used to choke you.
Yeah. So be smart about what you carry.
Right. Think it through.
Then there's this thing called streetcraft, which is kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
like a set of mental habits almost
Mm-hmm.
about using surprise and being super aware of what's around you, like
Yeah.
even paying attention to corners and potential hiding spots as you walk.
Right. Being a proactive observer.
Yeah, always scanning your environment. It's about thinking ahead,
Right.
positioning yourself so you have an advantage if something goes down.
Not getting caught off guard.
Exactly. The book also mentions how rural areas have different dangers,
Yeah.
like walking on roads without sidewalks and being vulnerable to traffic. And it even talks about specific challenges you might find in high-rise tenements.
Right. Different environments, different risks.
Okay, so the book then goes into specific risky environments and gives some really practical advice, like dealing with gangs and drunks.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
Yeah, they can be unpredictable and aggressive, and the book says, straight up, if you can avoid them, do it.
Absolutely.
Because alcohol can make people lose their inhibitions.
Right. They do things they wouldn't normally do.
And gangs that can be unpredictable, too.
Yeah, you never know what the group dynamic is,
Right.
so it's best to just steer clear.
Then there's traveling on public transportation, which brings up some important points, like buses late at night when they're mostly empty, or trains in isolated cars, or on deserted platforms.
Right. Those are prime spots for trouble.
And the book says, have phone numbers of people you trust readily available.
That's smart.
Yeah,
It's a quick way to get help if you need it.
and just having those numbers handy can make you feel safer.
Absolutely. And on public transport, be aware of who's around you.
Yeah.
Try to sit in well-lit areas where there are other people.
Yeah. And then there's taxes.
Huh.
The book says stick to reputable services and be careful with unlicensed or pirate taxis.
Yeah, you're getting into a car with a stranger.
Right.
You need to be extra cautious.
So use established companies or ride-sharing services that have clear identification.
Right.
Be wary of unsolicited rides and make sure the driver knows where you're going before you get in.
Those are good basic safety habits.
Yeah. And then driving in your car? The book says plan your routes in advance, keep your gas tank full.
Right.
Be aware of what's going on around you by checking your mirrors regularly.
It even talks about road rage.
Yeah, and how dangerous that can be. Don't escalate things if you encounter an aggressive driver.
Exactly.
And it mentions Miami car muggings as an example of how targeted these attacks can be.
Yeah, especially towards tourists.
So even when you're in your own car, you got to be vigilant.
Right.
And the book goes back to distraction techniques with a really specific example.
Hmm.
Shouting and spitting.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Now,
like...
it's a bit out there.
Yeah. The idea is to shock the attacker.
Yeah, disgust them.
Yeah. Give yourself a split second to react and get away.
It's extreme, but in a desperate situation, that surprise could be the difference between being helpless and having a chance.
Okay, so we've covered the mental side of things and how to be aware. Now, Section 3 gives a quick overview of your body's weapons and target areas. It's a shorter section in these excerpts,
Right.
but it brings up a key concept.
That you can use your body to defend yourself
Right.
as a last resort.
If you absolutely have to.
Yeah. It introduces the idea that your body can be a weapon.
If you know how to use it.
And it points out some of the key weapons. Your head, using your forehead or the back of your head to strike your hands.
Making a fist.
Right, and using your fingers for targeted pressure.
Right.
Elbows, knees, and feet. You have natural weapons.
Exactly, even if you don't have a gun or a knife.
Yeah, and to use those effectively, you need to know target areas on the body. The book mentions the eyes, the nose, the ears, the torso, the solar plexus.
The groin, arms, hands, legs, focusing on the knees.
The dead leg, and even the feet. Knowing these spots can help you stop an attack quickly.
Make your defense more effective.
So if you can't avoid a fight, knowing these targets and how to hit them could be what saves you.
Absolutely.
All right, Section 4 shifts gears again. It looks at the SAS approach and the law.
Okay.
And it explains the SAS philosophy of self-defense, speed aggression, and stopping the threat fast. It even talks about the 5-second knockdown.
Wow.
Yeah, but then it balances that out with the law.
Right, you can't just go around taking people down.
The book makes it clear you have the right to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But only with the minimum amount of force necessary.
Right, it has to be proportionate.
Yeah, and that's super important to understand. And then it introduces this structured approach for handling confrontation called the 4 Ds.
What are those?
Dialogue, direction, debriefing, and documentation.
Okay, let's break those down.
Yeah, so dialogue is the first step. Try to talk your way out of it. Stay calm. Make it clear you don't want to fight.
Words first.
Exactly. De-escalate if you can.
Right.
Direction, that's the second D.
Okay.
That's if talking doesn't work. You give clear, firm commands like stop, stay back.
Right.
Loud and assertive. Set those boundaries.
Make it clear you're not messing around.
Yeah. Debriefing. That's what you do after a confrontation.
Okay.
You explain what happened.
Great.
Especially if you had to use force.
So everyone understands why you did what you did.
Yeah. And documentation. That's about finding witnesses who can back up your story.
That can be really important legally.
Yeah. Their statements can be crucial.
Yeah.
And the book goes back to excessive force. You're not allowed to use more force than you need to stop the threat.
Once the threat is gone.
Right. You can't keep going.
It has to stop.
Yeah. And finally, the book touches on weapons.
Okay.
Carrying things for offensive purposes, that's usually illegal.
Right.
But you might be justified in using everyday objects defensively.
Like if you use your umbrella.
Yeah, or your purse to defend yourself.
Okay.
So it's complicated.
It is.
But the main point is that effective self-defense, it's not just about fighting. It's about having the right mindset, being aware of your surroundings.
Avoiding trouble.
Yes, avoiding trouble whenever possible,
Right.
and knowing the law. The physical stuff is a last resort. The goal is always to avoid violence.
What I find so insightful is how much of it is mental. Being prepared in your head and behaving in a way that keeps you safe.
It makes you think about how you go about your day.
Totally.
So here's something to think about. How would incorporating even a few of these principles change things for you? Like being more aware of your surroundings, communicating more assertively.
Right.
Could that make you less of a target? Could it give you the time you need to avoid a bad situation? Think about what resonated with you today and why. That might be the most important thing you take away from our deep dive today.